compare us like other districts. Those districts, their forests went long ago.
The environment is one thing that you cannot say it is for UA, for NEMA, for my BNFA. It is for all of us. We really need to protect the environment.
These excuses of boundary not being clear is simply being used by the local people and the veterans to encroach into the reserve.
We need to see a systematic address of all corruption-related issues within the forestry sector.
Environmental degradation continues to loom on most protected areas across the country. Majority of the encroachers are destroying the environment with impunity. Estimates indicate that the country is losing about 90,000 hectares of the forest cover per year, with the most affected being the forests on private land. Today, forest cover in Uganda is only estimated to be covering about 18% of the land surface, as opposed to the 30% recommended if Uganda is to have a stable ecological system. Degradation indicators are projected at about 2.75% per annum, and this situation is likely to deter the aspirations of the National Development Plan, which recommends that for Uganda to realize a stable ecological system, there is need to restore the forest cover from 3,604,176 hectares to 4,933,746 hectares by 2015. This can be done through reforestation and afforestation of 1,266,000 hectares in 698 forest reserves and 730,000 in national parks and game reserves. Some say this could be resulting from the lack of improved agricultural methods, such that people are looking for fertile land for food production. But some are blaming it on population pressure, to which Annette Kandole, the manager forest program at Care International in Uganda, objects.
We have studies, like the veterans who have moved from one forest reserve to another. That's not population pressure. It's a governance question. Because these are the same veterans moving from one reserve to another and to another. That's not population. Yes, but there is a way you can work with the population to appreciate the forest estate. I think some of this conflict or resentment are not a result of the pressure of the population increment, but can be a result of conflict or inequity in sharing the benefits from the forest.
Today, there is an increase on the levels of forest bonanzas, which is championed mainly by the people purported to be army veterans. The crisis of forest bonanzas was escalated further during the 2006 presidential elections, when the president stopped the eviction of forest encroachers on Butamira Forest in Busoga. This became an eye-opener to many, both the poor and the rich, to scramble for forest land in protected areas in their neighborhood. Several encroachments followed this presidential directive and were registered in different protected areas of Elgon, Kalangala, Mavira, and Namave forests, among others. All these conservationists say are politically motivated.
Yeah. Have we been?
No, here it is the neighbors, civilians.
The civilians now who are
Yeah, because now the other side of Chito was the veterans. So the civilians, since they had that the president had given them the other side, they said, okay, we can also share this one, they will give us.
They have been deprived of their right to live in their natural habitat. They are now invading people, hence increased problem animals cropping up. Because their usual feeding areas have been tampered with, there is increased vermin that is becoming disastrous to crops and on people's lives. Citing challenges of transparency and governance in the environment and natural resources sector, especially the forest and wildlife sectors, Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, with support from Care International in Uganda, entered a joint partnership in an effort to increase transparency within the sectors in a project named Tackling Corruption and Illegal Activities within the forestry and wildlife sectors. At the inception of the project, forest invasion was on the rise, with Namamve and Bugoma in the spotlight. Other forests that were facing similar challenges are Matiri in Chenjojo, and the problem with animals in and around Chibali National Park. For the Anti-Corruption Coalition to carry on successful campaigns in these ecosystems, There was a need to engage the local communities to sensitize them on the importance of conservation and help them appreciate nature for sustainability. For efficiency, there was a need to partner with local organizations, Rwenzori Anti-Corruption and Midwestern Region Anti-Corruption Coalitions, respectively. By virtue of their geographical coverage, Midwestern Region Anti-Corruption Coalition was assigned to champion the challenges surrounding Bugoma Central Forest in Hoima District, which was under attack by veterans under Tulipona Veterans Association. 1,500 community members, purporting to be veterans belonging to Tulipona Veterans Association in Nyairongo Village, Kaboya Sub-County, Hoima District, from near and far places, mounted serious encroachment on Bugoma Forest Reserve, causing damage to over 5,000 acres of forest land, claiming that that land wasn't part of the forest reserve due to the unclear forest boundaries. This was the level of encroachment at the inception of the project. The impact reached a great magnitude because the Tulipona veterans were violent and had started to invite more and more people to take up the forest as they targeted to take over 100 hectares of the forest reserve. But how did all this start?
The encroachment started in October 2010 when a group of Army veterans under an umbrella association they called Tulipona Army Veterans Association decided to apply for land which they thought was free around Nyairongo village. The application was made to Hoima District Land Board through the Sub-County Land Committee of Kiangwali Sub-County.
Because the veterans had made a calculated move to take over the forest, they created new boundaries to suit their interest.
They decided again to start, cutting lines inside the compartment to divide it up among themselves. Now, it was at that point that the issue of the unclear boundary came up. On the ground, boundary features were visible, but to them, they were claiming that NFA attempted to shift the boundary to cheat on public land, and therefore they demanded that unless a boundary verification exercise is conducted, they will not respect the existing boundary on the ground.
This sad development comes at a time when the region is at risk of pollution accrued from oil exploration, a situation that is most likely to have adverse environment effects on the population. You are aware, we are preparing ourselves to have oil extraction, oil refinery, and if you don't conserve our environment, this might be dangerous.
Mirak took lead as it interested itself in the protection of the forest, since it's one of the most cherished treasures Bunyoro can boast of. The district environment officer Hoima asserted at one of the meetings that those involved in the forest takeover are not indigenous people and therefore should observe and respect the environment which they have been seeing since time immemorial.
We are praying hard so that our forest reserve is conserved because of the uses, because of the benefits we get out of the what? Those forests. In fact, even we are requesting even if other communities can also protect their forests, because naturally those forests have their functions, isn't it? But we are having a problem somewhere, and to some extent some people are misleading. Yeah? Even as we are trying to fight tooth and nail to see that all activities are in line with what they are supposed to do, so that we avoid the future, that fear.
She, however, underscored the need to make political leaders accountable, who she said on several occasions have been named in the involvement of apportioning the forest to the people, which has fueled the encroachment level. But one of the leaders denies this.
When you look at this man, the chairman LC3, he's the chairman LC3 of Kiangwali. But they are telling you he's the one doing the most havoc thing. Another one is here, fine, but everyone will defend himself.
It has never been, and it is not my duty to allocate land. That one is a duty of the chairperson area, of the district land board. It is always a duty of the area land committees at sub-county level. It has never been a duty of the chairman LCCD.
2 political leaders were named to be instigating this whole forest takeover. Francis Mukoto, LC3 Kaboya Sub-County, and Omuhereza Mazirana of Changwali Sub-County. For Francis Mukoto, National Forestry Authority is to blame for the mismanagement of the forest.
Member of NFA, we found him in the forest. They get power source themselves. They start cutting logs for some of the trees down. After doing that, they rush come in the office to legalize it and say, we have seen people doing ABC in the forest. Now they make papers and say, since the trees are already down, go and do the needful. They do it.
In Chanjojo, the Chief Administrative Officer for Kamwenge 1 Rujumba was found having gazetted part of the forest reserve to his farm and has since acquired land titles which to date, Rwenzori Anti-Corruption Coalition is struggling to invoke.
We've tried as on our own as RAC. We've petitioned council to actually make sure that this forest is taken back as government land, and what the district has done is to open up the boundaries on that particular forest. But what is still remaining, which RAC is not yet contented with, is the fact that the forest is not yet, the name is not yet back to the district land.
Because Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda engineered the campaign in the fight against illegal activities in the forestry sector, as a result of their continued advocacy, evictions of over 1,500 encroachers were done in Bugoma Forest Reserve by NFA with support from the Environmental Protection Unit and Hoima District Local Government, as well as a halt on illegal activities in forests in the areas of Rwenzori region. The Environment Project Officer at Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, Efrans Nachinji, says that all this is an indication that there is at least a certain degree of improved responsiveness and commitment from the responsible duty bearers from the sector.
There is a level of responsiveness from the district local governments where the project is being implemented. That is the districts of Kabarole and Hoima. And in Kabarole, the district council engineered the process of evicting out the encroachers from the forest reserve, and it has really sustained its position, and apparently the forest is intact and the district is now using it as a forest reserve, and they are planting more trees in that forest reserve. Then in Hoima district, the district has been behind NFA in sustaining the evictions that were done in Bugoma Forest Reserve, where 5,000 encroachers were evicted from the forest.
Much as the boundaries have been opened, well, evictions were done, boundaries are opened, there's another component of the political will to do all these things. Because who is benefiting when the boundaries are opened? Who is not benefiting when they're opened? And this is a systemic thing that we've always talked about. The boundaries may be opened, but again, it may not solve the issues. So we need to see a systematic address of all corruption-related issues within the forestry sector.
For the Minister of Water and Environment, Professor Ephraim Kamuntu says that the challenge in the forestry sector is that people are not aware of the tremendous benefits and roles forests play in the hydrological cycle as well as the entire climate.
The linkage between trees and water and environment is so central, but people don't see it because rain is one word, water is another word. People think they are different. They don't see that the trees and transpiration in the skies, which comes as rain, it is rain, which now becomes water, and consequently, if you really want water, you must look backwards and see the linkage to the conservation of trees. If you didn't have trees, there would be no rain, there would be no water.
The lack of an environment atlas makes it more difficult to effectively monitor and manage issues surrounding major conservation areas, Professor Kamuntu adds.
Lack of an atlas demarcating and gazetting wetlands. If I demarcated all the wetlands in this country, demarcated all the forests in this country, gazetted them, and produced an atlas, then the debate about boundaries would be responded to.
And this is partly the reason the reopening of the boundaries has been a contentious issue in Bugoma, as each of the concerned parties give their account.
When he started the opening of the land, that shape was not clearly shown on the ground, which practically we had sort of something of that shape to be seen on the ground. But all in all, I think I'm happy with our veterans and the community members, those who were inside the other side. They have respected after that meeting, whereby we agreed that whoever was found inside the forest reserve must come out. And the veterans too must also come out and respect this temporal boundary. We talked to them, and I'm happy that they respected that, and everybody is now outside as we talk.
We have a surveyor, but we have failed to get the money. We shall appreciate if the government tells us, please can you show us you have a surveyor, so we pay him. I will not it down, and I'm ready if the surveyor comes and they work together and they say that this is land, that there is no land here in this Bunyuru, maybe where they can accommodate the veterans. For us, what we need is land. Is land in Bunyuru. We are people of Bunyuru.
Interesting to note is that majority of the Tulipona veterans are not the indigenous people, but rather from different areas across the country, and are now self-acclaimed forest boundary experts. From numerous engagements with the Ministry of Water and Environment, district local government, as well as the National Forestry Authority, reopening of the forest boundaries came out as a key action point, as it has appeared to be the major source of contention amongst the encroachers and the duty bearers. However, this has taken more than the anticipated period. As the reopening of the boundary awaits to commence, efforts of regrouping and re-entering the forests seem to be high on the agenda of these Tulipona veterans' next course of action.
If evictions are being done as a result of destroying the environment, and these people come back and boundaries are being opened, I think it is bigger than that. There are other issues that we need to address that we do not see, but those other behind forces that are leading to all these illegalities that are being orchestrated all the time by those actually that should be protecting our environment.
For us, maybe some of us, we shall die here. An eye for an eye, die a mote and mote. Because if I can recall my brothers who died in the army, then you tell me that you stop me on how I can survive, and the government has even not given me a coin. It is a tug of war.
If they give an ultimatum, which I do feel is uncalled for, and they go ahead to invade the forest, they will be handled as the law that governs the forest prescribe.
However, by and large, the efforts to save the forest in Bugoma are yielding results, as there is forest regeneration registered on the 5,000 acres of forest land that were reclaimed from the encroachers, as Ifrance Nachiinji, the environmental officer at ACCU, observes.
Apparently, the regeneration in Bugoma Forest Reserve is happening because these people are no longer going to the forest. So there is regrowth, and actually when you look at the forest now, it is becoming thicker and thicker. And we are very hopeful that probably if nothing changes, it will regain its natural glory.
What remains to be done is for the National Forestry Authority to carry on a rigorous move of tree planting in the areas that were already degraded for it to regain its central role to its previous glory. In Chibale National Park, the issue of problem animals will soon be history. Revenue sharing is slowly creating an impact, as these people are now excavating trenches at the park boundary in an effort to control animal movement. Angela Biangwa Senabulya is the coordinator Renzori Anti-Corruption Coalition. She has been working closely with communities, neighboring national parks, and explains the situation of how it has been.
There is a loud outcry by the people neighboring the park saying the problem animals have on several counts destroyed their gardens, but with no compensation whatsoever. What is rather perturbing, these communities are in fact is the fact that when they take action against the animals for killing humans, for destroying their crops, they are convicted Yet if the reverse is true, no compensation for the losses created is made.
The excavation of trenches around the national park will go a long way as efforts to influence the policy on compensation continues. Previously, trenches were excavated through contracting firms, which many times were dislinked from local communities as contractors often imported their staff. This left the local communities not appreciating the conservation of the tourism in Chibale and therefore the genesis of hostilities. In an effort to end this, the local leadership, the local government and RAC agreed to change tactics to hire local labor for them to use trench excavation as an income to the people who are victims of animal problem.
We've gone ahead to monitor the construction of the trenches, which has been proved the best method to deter animals like elephants from accessing the communities where crops have been destroyed, and there's no hope of compensation since the law is very silent on that. Where human loss has been lost.
We wanted the community to benefit from working for that money, that's one. And more especially those people who are along the forest, those who are affected by elephants raiding. Secondly, it's not easy to get soil excavators. Thirdly, tendering, the normal tendering would actually take away most of the money.
In Busiriva sub-county, communities involved are now starting to appreciate the tourism sector as they can testify.
The locals themselves come in to construct their own trench and they are given out money.
Twaba turampa umwino guturarima guratuyamba kuri injojo butarabamu munonga izrazira tulire misiri ziragishisha nakaseta akakituliho hanuya twese turarimira umwina niyo zirarugaze ni sente zirazira rwa muko munanka mwihambo mu mpaha kaba nanka baruge kaheru bije barambarambure babasigira kasente nawe bije batuletereho hanuya
ipaka tujigobirimo aboko bahayija barambuzi bakije bakarambura hanyuma kurambura kwabo nakasenta ko barasiga mu ihanga niko kararwa mu paka abawo bakatoha kasente kakije kakatukorera iminezi.
Wilson Kagoro is the Uganda Wildlife Authority Chibale National Park Conservation Warden. He says that in addition to committing revenue sharing to community-based projects, they have signed concession with communities to carry on fish farming and beekeeping in 35 parishes around Chibale Conservation Area.
Can have the capacity to plan within our usual planning system, to plan to say excavate 10 kilometers of a trench, top the community who may not really have any interest in the excavation of the trench because it is not our mandate. But what we are doing now is that we are trying as much as possible to convince our management, our top management, that can we do this for the sake of the community so that the communities can really have a field, they can have a breathing space.
Kagoro says that the role of civil society in mobilizing communities to appreciate conservation is an effort in the right direction, adding that conservation of natural resources is a collective responsibility.
One of the things Renzori Anti-Corruption Coalition has been doing, they have monitors, and so it's the same with these other NGOs. But what we are doing is that we have always been brought on board about their programs. So we tell the monitors to see the work we are doing and appreciate it, and also supervise what we are doing to see whether there is value for money. Like one last example I gave you about trenches. We are doing the trench, we agreed with the community to excavate so many kilometers, and we are doing the work ourselves. And we are paying these people directly. So the monitors have the freedom to come and see, to check how much money we have released and how much money people are getting. And of course, it is black and white. If you cannot afford to do this work 1 meter, 6 feet down, 6 feet wide, then you're not entitled to the 10,000 shillings which a person gets when they're excavating the trench. So it is very clear, and we are trying to harmonize this.
For the Director Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, Sisi Kagaba believes that it's only through engagement that communities will be helped and get informed of the governance issues in the natural resources sector and their importance.
What the project has done, of course, is to bring on board monitors. We call them independent budget monitors, or community monitors, because we believe that at the end of the day, people at the grassroots have to be empowered. The moment they are empowered, then they can come out and make the noise. They can come out with evidence and facts and challenge those that are in authority. So the project has trained particular monitors. We've given them experience, tools in in environment, and they're able to use that to continuously monitor the sector and produce evidence. Because I know that in advocacy it's very important to have evidence, but then if you have empowered the local population, in the process we envisage a critical mass that is well equipped and empowered with information that they themselves have gathered that they can use to bring about change within the district and also as a country as a whole.